Good afternoon, my Real News Midday TV family. Welcome back to the channel for another news update. And in the news this afternoon, Tiffany Murray missing without a trace. Almost 5 years later, family still clings to hope of her safe return. Saturday, March 16, 2020 was the last time Tiffany Murray's family saw her. Since then, they have been clinging to the hope that she will return home safe, even as they wonder what could have happened to her. Almost 5 years ago, 28-year-old Tiffany left her Parliamentary Grove house in St. Mary after responding to an advertisement on social media about vacancies at a hotel in Montego Bay, St. James. She never returned home. Tiffany's sister Denise, who was the only family member who knew of her job prospect, told the news that it was because she was preoccupied with her exams while she didn't inquire more about the weekend job interview, which she found strange. She normally tells me things, but that morning I didn't have time to listen. She called me, but I couldn't answer as I was doing my exams, and the teacher wouldn't allow me to answer the phone. I called her back, but she didn't answer, so I assumed she would return the call, said Denise. That call was never returned. The family became anxious when they didn't see Tiffany return home, and the calls to her cellular phone went unanswered. The matter was reported to the police and the search launched, but they came up empty-handed. Tiffany is the last of 10 children for Carly and Trevor Murray and was deciding on her future, although she was a trained practical nurse. We had a neighbor who was over 90 years old, and Tiffany was the one who took care of her until she died. That neighbor asked her children who were overseas to help her to go back to school, Denise recalled. She pointed out that Tiffany moved to Kingston while her mother was there and did a course in practical nursing. On completing the course, she worked as a caregiver for a disabled child. That job didn't last long as the arrangements that were made with the mother fell through. This led to her returning to St. Mary, where she found work at a gas station in Trinity. She worked at the gas station for a few months. Denise recalled as she described her sister as the go-getter and the positive one in the family. She noted that Tiffany was working at the gas station up to the time of her disappearance. According to Denise, both her parents have been dealing with the situation differently. Daddy and Tiffany were close. He doesn't talk about it but shows he's hurting. He drinks and smokes more. He sometimes calls us Tiffany, Denise told the news. Her mother, she said, is showing the best outside but clearly needs a closure. Mother Curly, who was overseas at the time her daughter went missing, is now wondering if this would have happened had she been in Jamaica. I wasn't here when she got messed up. I was overseas. If she had communicated with me and told me she was going on a job interview in Montego Bay, I would have asked her if she was mad and if she don't see that might be hot, Curly told the news. Me and her father never knew about it, the distraught mother said with a shake of her head as she described her daughter as a hard worker who was committed to her Christian faith and very secretive. Tiffany was quiet. She worked hard, from work to church. She didn't have a boyfriend or any children, the mother said, adding that the trauma of her daughter's disappearance made her very sick upon returning home. When she went missing, the kids didn't want me to come back to Jamaica, but I couldn't stay, added Carly, who questions whether she has done enough to find her daughter. Apart from the police, the bigger ones went in search of her in Montego Bay, but nothing, Carly said with a shrug of her shoulders. She, however, has not given up the thought that her child might still be alive. With the family supporting each other, plus the support of members of the Parliamentary Grove New Testament Church, where she worships, the distraught mother continues to hope. I had a church member who said that Tiffany dreamed her and told her that she'd soon be home, said Carolee. It's since the year's start that I said to myself that it's 5 years and we don't hear anything from the police. I wonder if they're done with the case, the mother questioned. I called Tiffany's phone many times and it rang without an answer, but this one time a woman answered and I said to her, "What are you doing with my daughter's number?" But she strongly told me it's hers now, the mother shared. This year Tiffany would have been 33 years old. I know that she's out there, probably in chains and bondage, but she's alive, Carly said, her tone heavy with optimism. When she returns, what a Christian party that will be, added Carly. Denise also expects to see her sister again. I do believe in miracles, and I'm hoping that she and the other young ladies and the men who went missing are alive," said Denise. Families' hopes are dashed as a man in coma passes away. For almost 3 months, Donovan Smith sat by his son's hospital bed, clinging to hope that he would recover. But on Saturday morning, at exactly 7 a.m., his worst fear became reality when his son, 24-year-old Joseph Smith, took his final breath, leaving his family shattered. Joseph had been in a coma since last year after a swimming accident. Even in his coma, Joseph showed the signs of awareness. His family and the doctors observed the small responses because he was able to blink his eyes when asked, and his father recalled the moments of connection with his son. When we visited him, we always talked to him, and he would respond with facial movements. You could see his mouth start to move in a certain way, and I would hold his hand and say, "Joseph, take it easy." We would encourage him and say, "Hold on, Joseph, don't give up," Smith shared. Joseph's tragic ordeal began on November 3 when he joined friends for a swim at Alligator Pond in Manchester. What was supposed to be a day of fun turned into a nightmare when he dived into the water and struck an object, breaking his neck and losing consciousness. A young girl then spotted him floating face down. Joseph was pulled from the water, and someone at the scene performed a cardiopulmonary resuscitation before he was rushed to the Mandeville Regional Hospital. Upon his arrival, doctors induced a coma, and a full-body scan was later conducted on Joseph. His family paid for additional private tests, including an EEG and an MRI scan. While the EEG provided a glimmer of hope by confirming brain activity, the MRI revealed a severe cervical spine injury and a likely spinal cord damage, complicating his condition. In the last week of November, Joseph underwent a cervical surgery, specifically a C6-7 anterior discectomy and a fusion with open reduction of facet dislocation. Doctors subsequently delivered heartbreaking news to his family that he would never walk again. Still, his loved ones held on to hope that one day he would return home. Smith told the news that the family had started making preparations to care for Joseph at home, even planning to get a specialized wheelchair for him. But their hope was short-lived. Despite the medication, Joseph suffered from constant seizures, and even though they were being treated with medication, that only helped for a while. Last week, the constant severe seizures led to him being declared brain dead, and days later, his fight ended. We're just in a sad state. It's emotionally draining. Many times I find myself crying when I remember him. Every time I remember his laugh. I just wish he was still around, his father said. He was my 7th child and our last son. It's really hard, but we are holding on by the grace of God. Guys, thank you for watching. See you this evening at 6 p.m. for another news update.